It was a cold evening in the busy city. People rushed in and out of the train station, their coats pulled tightly against the chill. Among the crowd, a small figure stood out. A little girl, no more than 8 years old, her hair messy, her dress a little torn, and her shoes clearly too big for her feet. She stood on tiptoe, looking at every passerby with eyes that carried both fear and hope. She clutched something tightly in her tiny hands, something she didn't want anyone to see. In the midst of the noise, a tall man in a sharp suit walked through the station. His shoes shined, his watch gleamed, and the people around seemed to move aside as if his presence demanded space. His name was Richard Hale, a millionaire businessman known for his ruthless efficiency and his cold demeanor. He was on his way to an important meeting, annoyed at the delay in his schedule. He hated wasting time, and for him, every second was money. But just as he was about to step into the private car waiting for him, a small tug at his sleeve made him stop. He looked down, frowning, and saw the little girl staring up at him. Her lips trembled before she whispered, "Sir, please, pretend you're my dad." Richard blinked, completely caught off guard. He almost laughed at the absurdity of the request. Pretend to be her dad? What kind of nonsense was this? He pulled his sleeve away and said coldly, "I don't have time for games, little girl. Go back to your parents." But the girl didn't move. Instead, tears welled up in her eyes as she held out the photo she had been clutching. "Please, sir, just for a moment. Pretend you're my father. Just until they leave." Curiosity sparked in Richard despite himself. He looked around and saw 2 men in dark jackets a few feet away, watching the girl closely. Their expressions weren't friendly. Something about the way they stood, the way their eyes followed her every move, made his stomach tighten. He finally looked down at the photo in her trembling hand. What he saw made him freeze. It was a picture of himself. Not a blurry one, not a trick of the light, but a clear photograph of him, smiling in front of a playground he didn't remember ever visiting. Richard frowned deeply. "What is this?" he muttered, taking the photo in his hand. "Why do you have a picture of me?" The girl sniffled and whispered, "Because, you are my dad." For the first time in years, Richard laughed, though it was more out of disbelief than humor. "That's impossible," he said. "I don't even have children. You must be mistaken." But the girl's eyes told a different story. They were the same shade of deep blue as his own. Her chin, her nose, something about her face was painfully familiar. He had spent years shutting out emotions, keeping his heart locked away, but in that moment, something inside him cracked. Before he could question her further, the men in dark jackets started walking toward them. The girl's grip tightened on his arm, her voice urgent. "Please, sir, they'll take me away. Pretend you're my dad, or I don't know what they'll do." Richard looked at the men, then back at the girl. Against his better judgment, he straightened his back and pulled her closer. "Stay close to me," he said firmly. When the men approached, he met their eyes with the same cold confidence he used in business negotiations. "Can I help you?" The taller man cleared his throat. "Sorry to bother you, sir, but that little girl, she doesn't belong to you. We need to take her back." Richard smirked slightly, masking his unease. "Really? That's strange, because she just called me dad. And last I checked, no one has the right to take a child away from her father." The men exchanged uncertain glances. The girl buried her face against his coat, trembling. After a tense silence, the men muttered something about a mistake and backed away into the crowd. Richard waited until they were gone before he pulled the girl aside. "Now, talk. Who are you, and why do you have my picture?" Through hiccups and tears, the girl told him her name was Lily. She had been living in a foster home, moving from place to place, never staying long enough to feel safe. But she remembered her mother, who had passed away when she was very young. Before she died, her mother gave her the photograph and said, "If you're ever in danger, find this man. He will protect you. He is your father." Richard's world tilted. He couldn't breathe for a moment. His mind raced back through the years. There had been someone, long ago, a woman he had loved in his youth but lost contact with when his career ambitions consumed his life. Could it be possible? Could this little girl really be his daughter? He shook his head, refusing to believe it. It was absurd. He had built his empire by shutting out distractions like love, family, and feelings. Yet here was this fragile child, standing in front of him, holding the undeniable proof of a past he had tried to forget. She looked up at him with tear-streaked cheeks and whispered, "Please, don't leave me." Something in his chest tightened. Against every instinct, he found himself nodding. Fine, you'll come with me for now. But don't think this means I believe your story. We'll get answers. And so, the millionaire who thought he had everything found himself walking out of the station with a little girl clutching his hand. He didn't know why he was doing it, only that for the first time in years, he didn't feel completely alone. That night, Richard's penthouse felt different. Lily's presence filled the cold, lifeless space with warmth. She looked in awe at the tall windows, the sparkling city lights, the grand piano no one ever played. She asked innocent questions, touching things with wonder, while Richard watched silently, trying to make sense of it all. At dinner, she whispered a thank you before eating slowly, as though afraid the food might disappear. He noticed her manners, her patience, and the quiet sadness in her eyes. It broke through walls he didn't know he still had. Days turned into weeks. Richard hired a private investigator to dig into Lily's story. The results shocked him. The woman he had once loved, years ago, had indeed given birth to a daughter after they parted ways. The timelines matched. The photograph, the features, everything pointed to one truth. Lily was his child. Richard sat alone in his study for hours, staring at the report. He thought of the fortune he had built, the countless deals, the nights of loneliness hidden behind luxury. And then he thought of Lily's trembling voice, "Sir, please pretend you're my dad." He whispered into the silence, "I'm not pretending anymore." From then on, Richard's life began to change. He took Lily to school, attended her recitals, even learned to cook her favorite pancakes. He found himself laughing again, something he hadn't done genuinely in years. The cold businessman slowly melted into a caring father. But life wasn't done testing him. The men in dark jackets returned. It turned out they worked for the foster system's corrupt handler, who had been exploiting children for money. Lily had escaped, and they wanted her back to keep their secrets safe. This time, Richard was ready. With his resources and influence, he exposed the corruption, ensuring that not only Lily but many other children were freed from their grasp. For the first time, he used his power not for profit, but for justice. One evening, as they sat by the fireplace, Lily curled up beside him and showed him the worn photograph again. Her eyes sparkled as she said, "I knew you'd come. For me, Daddy." Richard's throat tightened. He pulled her close and whispered, "I thought I had everything, but I had nothing until I found you." The man who once laughed at the thought of being a father now lived for the smile of his daughter. And the little girl who once begged a stranger to pretend to be her dad had finally found the real one. Sometimes, life's greatest miracles come not when we're looking for them, but when we least expect them. Richard Hale discovered that all the wealth in the world meant nothing compared to the love of a child. And Lily learned that hope, even in the darkest moments, can lead you home. So next time you see a child in need, or a stranger asking for help, remember this story. You never know when one small act of kindness could change your life forever. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, love is the greatest wealth anyone can ever have.